So we'll be talking about Asiatic lions now, and it's really important. It is also called Panthera leo, it's its scientific name, and it is found where? In Gir National Park and Wildlife Sanctuary, which is right there in Gujarat. So this is important. It's found only in India, and in India also it's found only in the Gir National Park and Wildlife Sanctuary, that is right there in Gujarat. And this was asked in the year 2019, wherein the statement was Asiatic lions are found only in India. So that this indeed is true. This is point number one. So it's written over here that they got beautiful manes, and it's the fur surrounding their head and a long hair that encircles their head. This is what manes are, and we really are not sure if they really boast of their manes or not, because it's not the quality of animals, it's something that people do, human beings do, but again this is not important. So only the male lions have these manes and these long hairs that encircle their heads. That's it. What are the threats? So poaching is definitely a threat, and habitat fragmentation is there, because we know they live in forest, but within that forest people have made roads, people have made railway tracks, they have made big temples, there are certain habitation of people as well, and this is something that is not suited for their needs. So habitat fragmentation is definitely there. Plus there is genetic inbreeding. Now genetic inbreeding, we have already studied what this is, and I really am not going to delve into it again. All we have to keep in mind is this, that genetic inbreeding is something which is not good. That's it. Further insights, they are under Appendix 1 in Wildlife Protection Act of 1972. They are under Schedule 1. It's either way obvious. This is something that is found only in India. Why would they be under something less than Schedule 1 or less than the Appendix 1, right? That's it. But IUCN Red List status is something important, because they are not, fortunately, not under critically endangered criteria. Rather, they are only under endangered. So that's it. Please memorize this as well. It simply means that Government of India has taken a lot of efforts to conserve this Asiatic lion. So this is the very reason they are not under higher threat level, which is definitely critically endangered. Rather, they are under endangered category. That's it. Further, why exactly we're studying it? Context is there, but either way we have to study it. But let's just get into the context now. So recently, CSIR, that is Center for Cellular and Micromolecular Biology, which is in Hyderabad, they have done what? They have done the genome sequencing of the Asiatic lions for the very first time, and this is the context. So genome sequencing of Asiatic lions for the very first time by CSIR Hyderabad. That's it. There is a project going on for the genome sequencing of the 1,000 Indians as well. Please write in the comment section what the name of that project. It's really, really important. That's it. So we have done with this entire thing, Asiatic lions. Every point here is important. Please read it once again and try to memorize each and every point. That is the key. But let's just quickly go through the important points once again. So it's Panthera leo. Its range is restricted to Gir National Park and Wildlife Sanctuary, Gujarat, and only the male lions have these manes, and their threats are poaching, habitat fragmentation, plus genetic inbreeding. They are under Appendix 1 of CITES, under Schedule 1 of Wildlife Protection Act 1972, and they are under endangered category of IUCN. That's it. And for the very first time, their entire genome sequencing has been done by the CSIR Hyderabad. That's it. So let's get on to second species, which is Great Indian Hornbill. Now again, this is very, very important. Context is there that there was a study carried out where in Pake Tiger Reserve, and which is where it's in Arunachal Pradesh, and this study found out that this Great Indian Hornbill, they are the top seed dispersers. Every bird is a seed disperser. Birds, they eat fruits and they fly over to some other place and then they drop off that very seed, but these are the top ones. And either way, this is not very important. This is the context, and we have to talk about the Great Indian Hornbill now. So it is one of the larger member of the hornbill family. That's it. And distributed along Indian subcontinent and Southeast Asia. So this is right there in the Indian subcontinent plus Southeast Asia. That's it. It is an important bird in many tribal cultures and rituals because of their size and unique color. As we can see right there in towards the right side of our screen, it's really, really good, beautiful. It got very different beak, very different color, and that makes it beautiful and unique. And even in captivity, it can stay alive for 50 years. It eats what? Definitely it's frugivorous, so it eats fruits, but it also preys on mammals, reptiles and birds. What are the threats to its habitat? habitat loss is there, number one, and hunting are also a major threat because tribal people hunt them for their paths, for ritual. This is number one. There are certain rituals that tribal people carry, and this hornbill is part of that ritual. So this is the very reason it's being hunted by the tribals. Plus they also make head gears, the beautiful thing that they wear onto their head. This is made by the hornbill through something used out of this hornbill's body, and this is how they make their head gear. Plus decorations and even as delicacy, so people eat them as well because they really taste good, but then this is not something good for the species per se. But let's just not deviate now. This is a threat. But because conservation efforts were there, so tribal people too have cooperated with the government of India and have pledged not to hunt them, and this is the very reason, despite it being under Appendix 1 of CITES, under Schedule 1 of Wildlife Protection Act 1972, it simply means that their threat perception is very high. But fortunately, under IUCN Red List status, they are not endangered or critically endangered, they are near threatened, so it's a good thing. That's it. So this is it for Great Indian Hornbill. It's really important, so please go through it once again. There are 2-3 things missing here, but we'll cover that in next video. I'll incorporate those things again. Either way, we have to talk about Java, this very species. So Sumatran rhino, so it's not just Sumatran rhino, it's something called the Java rhino also. There is an Indian rhino, there is African rhino. Some are having single horn, some are having double horn. Their IUCN status is different. So we'll be talking about rhinos, and there is one more species that is otters, that is Eurasian otter, and there is some 2-3 varieties of otters that are found in India. So we'll be talking about this rhino, otters, plus certain details of the hornbill, although this is also enough, but there are just tiny details are left. So we'll be talking about these 3 things in a separate video, so don't worry, everything will be covered. Don't you really worry about anything when we're talking about the species in news. So let's get on to white tiger or bleached tiger. Now this again is important. It's very simple. So number one, why we're calling it white tiger or bleached tiger? Because they really are not looking like tiger. We know Bengal tigers, they got orange color fur, but these tigers are of white color because they are not having a pigment, and its name is phemelanine. So because of lack of a pigment and the name is phemelanine, they got white fur. That's it. And this is why we are calling it bleached tiger. This could be a probable question. Why exactly they are having white fur? Because of lack of a pigment, phemelanine. That's it. So it's a pigment variant of the Bengal tiger, and that is it. Why exactly we're studying it? Because recently Bajirao, which was a 18-year-old white tiger, he died, he passed away where in Sanjay Gandhi National Park, which is in Mumbai, due to age-related ailments. So he grew old and he died, and his name was Bajirao. He was 18-year-old, and after his death, we are not having any white tigers in wild in India. That's it. So after his death, now there are no white tigers in the wild. There could be anything in captivity, but in wild there is no white tiger now. At least this is written over here. Alright, so once they were found in Madhya Pradesh, Assam, West Bengal, Bihar, but that was a thing of past. Right now there is no such thing. What all other things that are important now? After these things, we have to talk about one more point, and that is this, that when compared to Bengal tigers, the white Bengal tigers tend to grow faster and heavier than the orange Bengal tiger. So they don't look so beautiful. They are having bleached tiger, they are having bleached fur or white fur, but this doesn't matter for them because either way they are good. They can grow at faster pace and they are heavier than the Bengal tiger, which are of orange color. So this is it. We're done with the white tiger as well. That's it. It was really simple. Only one point was important. Why exactly their color is white? Because of lack of pigment, phemelanine. That's it. Moving on to the next, as I have already stated, Sumatran rhino will be covering in a separate video, and let's talk about the Kashmir, which is stag, which is hongul. So a question can also come, what is hongul? Hongul is a Kashmir stag, not in UPSC but in certain other exams, and it's a state animal of J&K. This too is important, not very important, but still we have covered it. Where exactly are they found? In the Dachigam National Park, which is in the Srinagar, J&K. That's it. Once they were found in mountains of Kashmir and parts of Chamba districts in the Himachal Pradesh as well, but that was a thing of past. Right now their range is restricted to the Dachigam National Park only, which is in Srinagar in J&K. That's it. Why exactly has it happened? So threats are there because habitat destruction is there. People are everywhere, and wherever human beings are, animals they are posing threats to the animal habitat destruction is 1 point. Overgrazing by domestic livestock. So even the livestock too needs grazing ground, but then they also need grazing ground, so there is a competition. So this is how their food is not sufficient for them, and overgrazing by domestic livestock is harming them. Poaching is there, this is either way obvious, and turmoil in Kashmir. So look at the connection here. So turmoil in Kashmir is threat not to just the peace and security or the development of the humans of that very place, even to the animals as well. They are equally bad. So this is it. What is their status in CITES? Appendix 1, either way obvious. In Schedule 1 of Wildlife Protection Act 1972 and in Schedule 1 of the J&K Wildlife Protection Act 1978. It's not very difficult. We know up till August 2019, J&K used to have special status. It used to have its own constitution, and any act that was passed by the Parliament of India, it has to obtain the concurrence of the legislature of that very state as well. So this is the very reason many acts are not implemented in the J&K up till 2019. Of course, now there is not something of this very sort. Now there was thing of past. It's a union territory now, so all the parliamentary legislature would be enacted in the J&K as well, but maybe we're deviating now. All we have to keep in mind is this, that in case of Kashmir, Hongul or stag, we are having Wildlife Protection Act protection as well as J&K Wildlife Protection Act 1978 protection. That's it. And look at the travesty here. Despite it being protected under two different acts, it still is a critically endangered species. That's it. So merely implementing the law is not enough. Let's not deviate now. It is also listed under the Species Recovery Program of the Government of India, and this is very important. This is not the only species that is there in the Species Recovery Program. There are other species as well, but definitely Kashmir stag or Hongul is also one of them. And we really can't end up memorizing every species that is right there in this very program. This is the key. Suppose now we are studying about Hongul and this thing has resurfaced, so try memorizing it now itself. That's it. So everything is important about this. It's a Hongul, it's a Kashmir stag, it's in the state animal of J&K, it's in Dachikam National Park, it's under Schedule 1 and it's under Appendix 1. It's a critically endangered and it is also under Species Recovery Program. That's it. So we'll be talking about the golden langur as well, and then we'll end the video because we have to cover only 5 species in one video so as to help us memorizing the things. Alright, so golden langur, its name. Geese golden langur is also its name, and golden leaf monkey is also its name. So as we can clearly see, it's golden everywhere, and towards the left side of the screen we can see its color is also golden. So it's definitely a beautiful golden monkey. It got a long tail and it's a langur as well. Its scientific name is difficult and it's not important. It's a Trichopathicus gee, not important. What is their food habit? They eat flowers or leaves. They are folivorous, it means they eat leaves. They are frugivorous, it means they are eating fruits. So it's a monkey which lives in forest. So either way, what else would he or she be eating now? So they would be eating leaves or fruits. Distribution range is important. It's northeastern India, mainly Assam. So even in northeastern India, we know we are having 8 states, but they are primarily found in Assam. And of course Bhutan, now it's slightly obvious. It's sort of obvious because monkey won't be knowing that there is something, a different state near to the area that is near to the northeastern India. So this is either way obvious. This is common sense. And towards the foothills of the Black Mountains they are found. This is either way obvious. So broad idea would suffice because we have to cover a lot of species, so we just have to keep in mind the broad idea here. We might be tempted to memorize in every point, but when things get consolidated, everything go out of the brain. So this is the key. Take the broad idea and that's it. Northeastern India, that's it. Threats are what? Either way, they are very simple. Habitat loss due to deforestation, electrocution from power lines, hunting by dogs, and high juvenile mortality in breeding and local trade. I don't know if I really talked about inbreeding. I didn't really explain inbreeding. It was while I was explaining the first lecture I talked about inbreeding, so I need to explain it here, I think. So broad idea would suffice that inbreeding is not good. It's like mating between two very related, very similar organisms. That's it. So when there is mating between very similar organisms, then So inbreeding is not good. When inbreeding happens, it's like mating between two very similar organisms, so there is lack of genetic diversity. So when genetic diversity is not there, and God forbid anything goes wrong with one organism, then it would be somehow getting into all the organisms of that very species, and entire species would be under threat. So broad idea would suffice: inbreeding is not good. It's like mating between two very similar organisms. If we don't come across any genes diversity or genetic diversity, this is not good. That's it. This is also one of the threat to them. Under CITES, they are under Appendix 1, and under IUCN, they got endangered status, and under the Wildlife Protection Act 1972, they are under Schedule 1. Now, everything is here to be memorized, nothing for me to explain. And we got two more things here, and that is about the Chakrashila Wildlife Sanctuary. Where is it? It's in Assam. Number 1, and then we have Manas Wildlife Sanctuary. It's also in Assam, and they are the two protected habitat of this very species. It's either way obvious, because primarily they are found in Assam, so they're bound to be some sort of protected habitat for them in that very state. Manas is something that I'm sure we already know. Chakrashila is something new, so please try memorizing this as well. Why we're studying this? Either way we have to study about this, but let's just read the context also. For the very first time, MGNREGA 2005, we know what MGNREGA is. It would be having a non-human beneficiary. So monkey is definitely not a human, and still it would be getting the benefit under MGNREGA. So this is the context. How exactly this would be happening? So broadly, people would be asked to plant fruit trees, because these monkeys, they eat fruits and flowers and leaves. So if there are not much of the food available into their habitat, then they would be bound to cross from one forest to other, and in between they caught in these power lines, and they die of electrocution. So just to not let this thing happen, people will be asked to plant more and more fruit trees right in the vicinity of their habitat, so that they really would be not needing to jump from one tree to another. Of course they would be jumping, but not to cross the forest, so as to get themselves protected from the electrocution from the power line. That's it. So this is how a scheme meant solely for human beings can be used for betterment of animals as well. But let's just not deviate now. That's it. But still, let's just read it now. For the very first time since MGNREGA 2005, will have non-human beneficiary. The rare golden langur is in a reserve forest in western Assam's Bongaigaon district. So this is it. So this is really important. Let's just quickly revise it, because it's really important. So it's golden langur, geese golden langur, and golden leaf monkey. Scientific name is Trachypithecus gee. They are folivorous, frugivorous. They are found in northeastern India, mainly Assam plus Bhutan plus foothills of Black Mountain. They die of deforestation. Habitat loss happened due to deforestation. They die of electrocution, hunting by dogs, high juvenile mortality plus inbreeding plus local trade. Appendix 1, endangered. Schedule 1, Chakrashila Wildlife Sanctuary, Manas Wildlife Sanctuary in Assam. Non-human beneficiary for the very first time under MGNREGA. That's it. So let's talk about this Asiatic golden cat now, or we can talk about this in our next video, because it has turned out to be of 18 minutes already. So we'll be covering the rest of the species in the next video. Thank you so much for watching, and goodbye.